Hello everybody, this is Johns Hopkins with Baltimore Heritage, and we're back with another of our 5-Minute Histories videos. And today I'm at the 32nd Street Farmers Market at, well, 32nd Street in Barclay in the Waverly neighborhood. If I were in Saudi Arabia instead of Baltimore, I'd be at the 32nd Street Souk. If I were in Afghanistan, it would be the Bazaar, the Mercado in Mexico. And if I were in the Philippines, it would be the Palenque. I hope I'm saying that right. Clearly the idea of people who grow food getting together all in one place and selling it to all of us who eat food is a universal concept. We call it the farmers market today, and we're going to talk about two farmers markets in Baltimore, here in Waverly and then one on Sundays underneath I-83. I'm thrilled that I'm going to be joined by a young woman named Elena Roca who works at the Sunday farmers market. But before I turn it over to Elena, let me say a word or two about how we got to farmers markets, the concept of farmers markets that we know today in America at least. We're going to go fast, but let's start 10 or 12,000 years ago with the agricultural revolution. That's when, in a big way, we humans started eating more food that we grew than we gathered or hunted out in the wild. And if your family or pod or clan or whatever you want to call it grew more food than you needed, you would then sell it or trade it to somebody else. As we started to develop towns and cities, we, some of us at least, set aside designated areas where food producers would sell their wares. The agoras in ancient Greece were maybe the most famous example, but ancient cities in Nigeria and China also. Let's jump forward to the Industrial Revolution, and that's when a lot of us became disassociated from the food that we ate. We would do what we now call grocery shopping, going store to store. We'd go to the butcher for meat or the greengrocer for produce, and we probably bought stuff from clerks, not from the people who actually raised the cow or grew the corn. This disassociation took another step forward in 1912 with a company called the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company that had been founded in New York in the 1850s. It came up with the concept of an economy store. In one location, you could go and get your Sunday roast and your head of lettuce. You would again buy it from a clerk who would put it in a bag for you, and you probably had no idea who grew your food. This took another step forward in 1916 in Memphis with a gentleman named Clarence Saunders. He founded a store called Piggly Wiggly with a radical concept. He put the food out on counters, and we shoppers would go and pick out our own head of lettuce or watermelon, and we loved it. We loved even more the fact that he didn't have to pay clerks and accountants, and the prices were cheap. The final step in this sort of disassociation of we who eat from those who produce our food came with the advent of the supermarket. And that was in the 1930s. A gentleman named Michael Cullen, who had worked for Kroger Groceries, broke away and founded what he called King Cullen's Grocery in Long Island. And the concept there was an enormous store, no credit, only cash, no deliveries. You would go and for very cheap prices pick out your own items. Clearly now we were at a stage where the shopper was the center of this transaction, not the grower. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Elena to talk about how we got back to where people who grow food and people who eat food get together at farmers markets. Elena, we are all yours.
Hello everybody, I'm Elena Roca. I'm currently a rising senior at the Park School of Baltimore, and I work at the Sunday Market, and I'm also an intern for Johns Hopkins at Baltimore Heritage. So today I will pick up where John's left off in around the 1950s and 60s, when improved roads and better transportation all contributed to the rise in popularity of the supermarket and decline in the relationship between farmers, growers, and consumers. But then by the 70s and the 80s, we see this rising movement of farmers markets because people became increasingly concerned about the quality of their food, how infected it was with plastics, how unnatural it was, and they wanted to take control of what they were consuming and be closer to who grew their food. So the first farmers market in New York City opened in July in 1976, and it was known as the Green Market. In addition to states like New York, there were also states like Oregon where the modern farmers market also opened up around the 1970s. Today, farmers markets have become a way to help consumers source their food directly from the grower and take control of knowing what they eat. Unlike grocery stores or public markets, farmers markets ask their customers to come only once or twice a week at very short periods of time, which minimizes the retail costs for the farmers, meaning it's both beneficial for the growers and the consumers. The farmers markets can also provide a way for citizens to connect with others, be involved in the community, food policy issues, and volunteerism. The modern farmers market fever did not skip over Baltimore. Both the Baltimore Farmers Market and Bazaar and the 32nd Street Farmers Market opened in the late 70s and early 80s. The Baltimore's Farmers Market and Bazaar is Maryland's largest producer-only farmers market, and it has been operating since 1977. The idea started when a citizen wrote to Mayor William Donald Schaefer pleading for help in finding cheaper food. In response, the mayor decided to pitch the idea of a downtown farmers market, and it was created as part of an effort to revitalize the Inner Harbor. Initially, the farmers market was located in the parking lot of the old fish market, which opened in 1907. The Science Center was also opened in 1976, only a year before the creation of the farmers market, and that same year, Baltimore hosted its bicentennial celebration in the Inner Harbor in an effort to get more people to come and celebrate and revitalize the neighborhood. When it started, the market had 53 vendors, and today it has 142. In its creation, the market mostly only sold produce, but now it sells anything from fresh empanadas to clothing to knife sharpening services to any produce you want. Baltimore was not only striving to revamp the Inner Harbor, however. In 1980, the 32nd Street Market was created as an effort by the neighborhood citizens of Waverly and Charles Village to have easier access to a farmer's market farther north in Baltimore. The only problem was they needed someone to hire to be a manager of the farmer's market. This is where Timothy D. Armbruster from Goldsecker Foundation stepped in and provided the funds that were necessary to hire a market manager and start up the market. To date, Armbruster views that grant as one of his best examples of a return on investment for the private Baltimore-based foundation. Today, the 32nd Street Market provides baked goods, produce, fruit, prepared foods, and flowers to patrons of all economic and social backgrounds. In fact, we don't just have 2 farmers markets, we actually have 6 farmers markets located all across Baltimore and Baltimore County, and we really encourage you to check them out.